first goal in Champions League history wasn't scored by a European superstar. It came from a Nigerian teenager the world barely knew. 1992, European football is rebranding itself. The European Cup becomes the UEFA Champions League. More modern, more global, more rich. But before the billion-dollar era, before the dominant reigns of Real Madrid, Manchester United, and Barcelona, the very first club on that new score sheet came from Belgium. But our story begins in Kaduna, Nigeria, where a young footballer developed his skills and will go on to rewrite moments in Europe's most historic competitions. Daniel Amokachi grew up in northern Nigeria, in a football culture built on rhythm, strength, and improvisation. The man was relentless. His most famous goals were absolute bangers. By the late 1980s, Nigeria was producing a generation that would soon shake global football. Players who didn't just adapt to Europe, they forced Europe to adapt to them. And Amokachi was part of that wave. In 1990, he made his move to Belgium with Club Brugge. Not a traditional giant, but the perfect stage for something unexpected. You see, history doesn't always wait for the biggest name, it just finds the right moment. November 25th, 1992, Club Brugge vs CSKA Moscow. A new era begins, and Amokachi scores. That goal becomes the first ever in the rebranded UEFA Champions League. Before Messi, before Ronaldo, before the anthem became iconic, the first breakthrough came from a Nigerian forward playing in Belgium. And it wasn't luck. Amokachi's run into space behind two defenders allowed him to receive the pass with a spicy turn. Composed, he left the defenders behind him, pulled out the keeper, and slotted it in for Champions League history. But Europe wasn't the only place Amokachi was making noise. With Nigeria, he became part of one of the most iconic African teams ever assembled. Players like Finidi George, Rashidi Yekini, and JJ Okocha. At the 1994 World Cup, Nigeria didn't just participate. They arrived on the world stage for the very first time. Fearless and unapologetically expressive, Amokachi played a key role. When in the decisive final group stage match against Greece, Amokachi sealed Nigeria's victory with another banger as they reached the round of 16 in their debut tournament. That same year, Nigeria finally won their second Africa Cup of Nations. So the global recognition complemented the continental dominance, and Amokachi was right at the center of it, a symbol of a generation that refused to be overlooked. But Amokachi's most unforgettable moment didn't even come on the world stage. 1995 FA Cup semifinal, Everton vs Tottenham. Amokachi starts the game on the bench, but when the Everton striker Paul Rideout got injured, Daniel Amokachi did something amazing. When the manager kept stalling, Amokachi got up off the bench, went to the assistant ref, and told him the manager wanted to put him on. The manager did not want to put him on, but he did it anyway. No hesitation, no waiting. At this point, Everton had the uncomfortable 2-1 lead, with Tottenham having the momentum. And then, Amokachi scores 2 goals, back to back. The game was flipped, and Everton were victorious 4-1. They're going to Wembley. It sounded unreal, but it really happened. And Everton go on to win the 1995 FA Cup, beating Manchester United 1-0 in the final. Amokachi doesn't score that day, but without him, there's no final. From rewriting Champions League history to rewriting FA Cup folklore, Daniel Amokachi's name doesn't always come up in the mainstream conversation, but his impact is embedded in the modern game. He represents a bridge between African football's global emergence and Europe's transformation into a truly international stage. The first Champions League goal isn't just trivia. It's a statement about who was shaping the game long before the spotlight caught up. And that Everton moment, that's something deeper. That's instinct. That's unwavering confidence. That's a player refusing to wait for permission to define his legacy. So next time you hear that Champions League anthem, remember the first voice in that story didn't come from Madrid, Milan, or Manchester. It came from Kaduna, from Nigeria, from Daniel Amokachi. Yo, and if you're rocking with this Club Brugge jersey, go check out Goalscorer Kits in Miami, where they got the most fire retro collection really in the nation. So if you're visiting Miami during the World Cup, or if you live in Miami, make sure you go check them out.